All right, looks like it's live this time.
Yeah, that's better. Yeah, there must be two things. There's Google Hangouts on Air, or there's Hangouts on Air, which is what this is, and then
Right.
there's Video Hangouts, which obviously is something completely different. I guess a video hangout is just where you make a video call to someone. The Hangout on Air is where it's recorded and
Yeah,
simultaneously recorded to YouTube as well. So I'll make sure I remember that next week.
I use the video chat frequently, but say I had never used Google on Air until we started, or Hangout on Air until we started doing these. So it's fun, something new to learn.
We'll get
one
there.
more
We'll
great
get there.
one more great thing to learn from this class on Google, any new form of media.
Yes. So how was week two?
Week two was interesting. I'll be honest, I waited until last night to do it because I wanted it all fresh in my mind for today, and I found last time I had done it a little too early for our chat, so a lot of it had, disappeared. And it was completely not what I thought it was going to be about. So that was good. Good. I was actually surprised and pleasantly surprised, I guess, that it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. So more about newspaper. The book thing was completely different than what I thought he was going to take it as. So yeah. How about you?
I didn't. Well, I've just probably this evening I'll have finished my week two blog post, but and it'll explain it in there. But I'll give you a sneak preview. I wasn't that. I found it harder to engage with week two than I did week one, and I've been thinking about why that might be. And I think it's about the closeness that I am to the subject that's been run that week. I mean, Google search is something that's just, I mean, who doesn't use it? It's inherent. I use it on mobile devices, from smartphones to tablets to netbooks to full-size desktops, and that was week one. Week two is just not something that I'm that close to. The media and publishing, yes, I read books, and yes, I probably should be more interested in the copyright industry and the publishing industry. But if I'm honest, I'm not. It's not something that that I worry about. It's not something that I feel I'm deeply connected with. And also the whole thing around Google Books. I don't really use Google Books, to be honest. I do, a lot of my. I guess I'm wrapped up in the Kindle ecosystem now. So the whole Google Books thing is I won't say it's lost on me, but I just didn't feel that close to the two areas this week as I did in week one, and I think that made me feel a little bit less engaged with the course.
I won't disagree, although I was pleasantly surprised in what they say. I don't use Google News. I didn't know Google News even existed until
A week ago.
I don't know. No, I won't say a week ago, actually, a little longer than that, when I started my blended learning course, because I started finding that people were hitting my blog from Google News. Like, that was the traffic flow. And I'm like, where is Google News getting my blog? Because I keep going back to the site that they apparently came from, and I can never find anything. I'm like, so how are they going from there to my blog? So I'm thinking, oh, maybe there's, was it RSS feeds or something that
Yeah.
maybe they were seeing it on their Google News page, because I couldn't figure it out for love nor money. So I've seen it. I don't use it. I use Twitter. I use Twitter for all my news. I follow all the reporters that I'm really interested in. I follow, CBC. I follow BBC, Global News, like the places I want to follow. I don't follow CNN because I think that's just headlines and no substance. So the news crews that have substance, I follow them. The writers with substance, I follow them directly. I don't need Google News to tell me what I should be following. I want local, right in the minute. We had a situation happen in Moncton, which is a city not that far from me, with a shooter who shot 5 cops, killing 3.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it made news.
It was big news across in the UK. Yeah, it got
Yeah,
a lot of coverage.
yeah, it doesn't happen in Canada, right? So I followed minute by minute on Twitter. Everything I needed was right there. People that
Yeah.
I could find out from people that I knew what was happening, or people that knew people I knew what was happening. So it was, a much more connected, much more local than Google News is ever going to be for me. Um, but Google Books was interesting because I blog, and the copyright issues that they came up with, that was important for me to understand, like fair use and common use. Like, that's all really important for me because I want to make sure that when I use something on my blog, I'm using it appropriately because most of my blog is education or teaching based, and then other people are going to be able to use it right. So I guess for me there was a little bit more connection. And ironically enough, I discovered Google Books doing family history research. So for me, it was within the last year I found it because there was a book written by a great great uncle, somebody who was a privateer. Robbed a few U.S. ships, had their boats sunk by the U.S. Navy, sued the government and won. Like it was, a big deal, right?
Yeah.
So I could find the book and I could read the whole thing because it was copyright. I could read the whole thing on Google Books. It was great, and you get lots of little bits here and little bits there of the book, just enough so you can get what you need.
What about from the assignment perspective? Because you touched on the importance of copywriting and giving credit and so on. And I've just finished reviewing the 5 peer assignments. And I found as I was reviewing those that they went from being very well referenced to not being referenced at all. So I guess that brings us to the assignment this week, which for those people that are watching this and aren't involved in the program, involved us reading a very short extract about a judgment that was made in Google's, or perceivably in Google's favour in the US around the Google Books project, and we were asked then to respond to that very short assignment, 350 words, saying, is Google Books a good thing? Is it a bad thing? If whichever it is good or bad, who is it good or bad for? And it asked us to reference any material that we'd read to back that up. So how did you get on with that?
I'll be honest, I kind of missed that where I didn't do it till last night. So I have to find a little bit better time. I've got to hit that stride. I didn't realize there was an assignment this week. I thought it was starting next week. So my bad on that one. But in thinking about it and going through, I think Google Books is going to be good. I think what I like about Google Books is it's not focused on U.S. books, or not strictly focused on U.S. books, where the TCLA was focusing on American literature, American museums, and American this, and American that. Great. Okay, they put on a bunch of stuff. But literature, and good literature, isn't found housed just in America, or even housed in America. English literature is found in England, right? It's found in the UK, and I'm more interested in getting access to copies of books, and I want prefaces from older books. I mean, I studied Renaissance lit. For me to be able to get in and look at a copy of a book that I'm never going to be able to touch in a university library because, heaven forbid, you get any foils on it, even with gloves. I think for those of us who are interested in researching things, Google Books is going to be a great thing. More books, more countries, more languages, a more global perspective than the TCLA is going to take, than any other individual countries. I guess whatever individual country will do, like government-sponsored or government-run or non-profit-based groups are going to do. They're going to focus on their own country. I like the Google stuff.
It's interesting that you mentioned countries and governments then, because I took the stance that it's a good and bad thing. It's good for all the reasons that you mentioned and then some, but I tried to really think very critically about it, and I thought to myself, Google Books, the obvious people that it's perceivably bad for are those that work in the publishing industry, the writers, the marketers, the publishers, those types of people. But then I tried to think, and I looked at it from a perspective of, if I was the head of a country that perhaps had a very controlling country, a dictatorship or something like that, if the people in my country had this free to access ability to look at literature and reading and reports and perspectives from around the world from pretty much the dawn of time or thereabouts, I could see how that would be a bad thing for me in terms of being able to control the access to what people can read and see and in turn inform their views. So I tried to take a I must admit I was having to play devil's advocate with that sort of approach because it's fundamentally I think it's a good thing, but I did try and see it from two perspectives, and I tried to see it from perspectives that went the normal ones, such as a reader and a publisher, or a reader and an author. So that was quite good fun trying to look at it through that lens.
Well, I think that's a great lens to look through it, because that's how dictators work best. They by controlling the information that gets in and controlling the messages that get out, and thought control in a certain way. I think it's going to be good for the people. It's bad for the dictators.
Yeah.
It's good for the people. We
Yeah.
need information to be global. That's going to be the best impact of globalization we'll ever have, is by making everything accessible, universally accessible. And that's what's going to even out some of the inequality and in the world, by bringing the knowledge bases a little closer to being level. You hope they will be eventually, but we've got to, we're in such a fundamentally different. Every little bit that we can bring another group up is only beneficial for everybody. So, I still take it that from looking from the people stance, yes, it's great. From the dictator stance, no.
Like I said, it was a bit of a stretch of the imagination, but I just wanted to think of it through a different perspective. What about the quizzes? Because we've had quizzes since week 1, I believe. Yeah, since week 1. So,
yes.
What do you what are your thoughts on the quizzes, and are they adding any value? What's their purpose within the program? Because I've blogged about them, which I'm going to publish, like I said, later today. Just wondered what your perspective was on them.
Well, I think quizzes are good just to make sure that you're understanding the core concepts, because it's easy to, when you're working on something by yourself, to kind of take something that's said and go in one direction when you should have gone in the other. That's the downside to online learning, is you don't have the teacher that's going to curve you back in. The tests have to curve you back. So I know even when I did mine, I got 4 to 5, and I said I'm not going to bother redoing it because with the way the marking scheme is, I'm not going to get a better score anyway, right?
Yeah.
The one point he made, I hadn't quite caught it, or sorry, one point that was made in an article I hadn't quite read properly, and you know what? It caught me. But it made me go back and reread the article, because by then I'm like, no, I'm going to figure out what this answer is. I have to know, because that was a problem, a quest that I had to go on. I had to resolve this issue, which brought me back to the Jeff Jarvis article, because that's where I got caught, is on one of his statements, I think.
I think quizzes as an engagement tool are quite good. They're very short. They're quite light. They're easily done from a mobile device. Despite it giving you the impression that you can actually do them from a mobile device.
Are you doing it through the Coursera app, or are you doing it through your browser?
Through the app. It gives you. It says that because I've registered for this achievement program, the certificate at the end of it, it says that I need to do it from a device with a physical keyboard and with a webcam. So I just carried on clicking the button, and it takes me to the quiz. So I don't get why. I don't know if it's a bug or anything. The quiz results have been registered. I got 5 out of 5 week 1, 4 out of 5 week 2. So the quiz results have been registered, just quite accessible. But for me, I think within the UK learning and development industry, there's been for quite a while, and it's getting stronger. There's been this real pushback against what I would call the nominal throwaway formative assessments, multiple choice questions that they test nothing really other than your short-term memory. They test your ability they're probably more testing for the instructional designer to create good questions and answers than they are for the actual person that's using it. So I won't say that we've stopped doing it in the UK by any stretch of the imagination, but there's a lot more people are pushing back against the types of quizzes that are within Coursera.
Right.
But I think the point that you've made, and I don't know whether you're an exception to the rule or whether you represent the mass of people doing it, but I think the fact that a question tripped you up, and you off your own back chose to go and look at that subject area again and figure out how it had tripped you up and where it had tripped you up, and to make sure that hadn't happened again. So I think and I just wonder if that's Is that you? Is that the general consensus of people that are doing this program? Or, and I suspect it might be the third option, most corporate e-learning that we push onto people, They have no choice about whether they do it. They have to do it. It's compliance or mandatory training. With this program, everybody that's doing it, unless some have been forced to do it, are doing it voluntarily, and therefore far more self-directed, far more self-focused, and more likely to do exactly what you did, which was go and figure out why you got it wrong and how you got it wrong. So yeah, so perhaps if that's the reason that the quiz was designed, then I think it's positive. If it was just designed as almost to provide a false sense of how you're doing, because I think it does provide a false sense of how you're doing, because it only tests your ability to recall information that you've read or seen or listened to, rather than actually how you'd apply it. So yeah, but you've brought an interesting perspective of what you've just said there. So I'm not going to rewrite my blog post for this week, but I think I might take it into account for week 3. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I live to bring ideas to other people to write about. That's my thing. Now, I'm taking a course on another platform where you type in your answer. So it'll ask you more about what you think, how would you do, what. It's a teaching course, right? A gamification course. And it's interesting, but there's no wrong answers. I could type in FGHJKL, and I'm going to get a point for it. That's the downside.
There's no intelligence, even a semantic sort of just looking to see what the sentence construction is. There's nothing like that.
Nothing on sentence structure, nothing on looking for keywords. It's just asking you to think through what you would do. Working on the assumption that as adults who are choosing to take these courses, that we are going to apply it in an appropriate way, and we are doing this to benefit ourselves in either our careers or our own education that we're choosing to further, right? I love to learn, so I want to learn, or I need to learn because I need a skill. What are the two that we're going to actually involve the time or invest the time to do it? It does help, as far as I'm concerned, that all our quiz results or all our quiz submissions are posted on another page. So if I just typed FGHJKL, other people are going to see that.
Right.
Just as I can go and look afterwards at other people's quizzes, I guess technically before, probably, but afterwards I can look at their quizzes to see, other ideas they had. Was I on the right track? Was there something with a great idea that's just a light bulb flashing? You really got to try this. It's hard. Coursera really tests your bottom levels of understanding, your knowledge. They're not getting the top ones. This other course is trying to get the top, levels, like create and evaluate. How would you do this in an analysis perspective? But I don't feel like it's grading me for it. So I don't know which I like better. I really don't.
Looking forward to week 3.
Yes, I am. I think I'm going to have to try to do it on the weekend so that I can still have it close enough to the conversation to remember enough of it to talk about, and far enough back that I have time to do the assignment, because I believe this one's worth 10 points and not 5.
Okay, on that note then, I'm sure we'll be in contact through Google Plus as we have been all week, but I shall see you in week 3. Best of luck with week 3's assignment and the peer reviews, everything that have come from this week and all of that, and I'll see you online next week.
All right, and I look forward to reading your blog.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.